All I have to say is holy. That was a lot of spoilers to get dumped out on us on day one. Sadly, that means I only have enough time to go over things that personally interest me from the new Baldur's Gate set. But here we go. For today, we're going to look at the brand new mechanic, Backgrounds. Backgrounds are a new enchantment type that are legendary, so sorry, no copying these without a mirror box or a mirror gallery in your deck. That can stand in as a second commander in the command zone as long as your commander is one of the ones that support backgrounds, such as Volo, Itinerant Scholar. For 2 and a blue, you get a human wizard legendary 2/3 that says when it enters the battlefield, create Volo's Journal, a legendary colorless artifact token with hexproof that says whenever you cast a creature spell, note one of its creature types that hasn't been noted for this artifact. It also has 2 and tap. Draw a card for each creature type noted for target permanent you control named Volo's Journal. Choose a background. That last line is what allows for the background to reside in your command zone, so depending on which one you choose, it also affects the color identity of your deck, allowing you to use backgrounds that are not in the commander's colors. So, for example, Volo is mono blue, but you can pick a black background and then your deck is then black and blue. You can also just simply run these enchantments in the deck as part of the 99 and not have to worry about the background restrictions, or rule 0 them if your group allows that. Also of note, just like your commander, if the background that you've cast to the battlefield is exiled or destroyed, you can send it back to the command zone and it gets taxed for an additional 2 colorless every time it gets destroyed or exiled, and this is separate from the commander being taxed for it being removed from the game. One final note that it was also brought forth was that any cards that refer to your commander, such as Command Tower and Arcane Signet, producing color that identifies to your commander, will also see the backgrounds and produce the colors of the backgrounds as well. Enough with the background information, haha. But here is what has been revealed so far for these backgrounds. Some of them are really good and some of them are just kind of mediocre and some of them are just fillers. So let's see what we got here. First off, one of the ones that impresses me the most and makes me want to use it, Master Chef. For 2 and a green, you get an enchantment that says commander creatures you own have this creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it, and other creatures you control enter the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on them. So let's take a commander, strap hardened scales onto it. Seems pretty good. Next up, we have Noble Heritage. For 1 and a white, commander creatures you own have when this creature enters the battlefield, and at the beginning of your upkeep, each player may put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature they control. Each opponent who does this, you gain protection from that player until your next turn. This is what I would call a powerful but a long-term gamble. You can buff your creatures up, but so can your opponents, and that protection only lasts for 1 turn cycle. That said, you could just make your greedier opponents pay for trying to take advantage by pinning their buffed creatures down with like Banishing Light or Borrowed Time or something of that nature. And of course, you can also just view this as a group hug card and just spread the counters around. Next up is Criminal Past. For 2 and a black, commander creatures you own have Menace, and this creature gets +X/+0, where X is the number of creatures in your graveyard. Depending on what we see out of the legends in this set to take advantage of the backgrounds, this could be really good as part of that, or I would just run it in the 99 as a part of a indestructible commander like Zergo Helm Smasher, which, you know, he might want to take advantage of that kind of thing. Next, we have Faceless One. For 5 colorless, you get a 3/3 creature, which this is the only one of those backgrounds that is a creature that's been revealed so far. If it is your commander, you can choose a color before the game begins and it becomes that color. And then it has choose a background. So if you're struggling to get a legend to match the rest of your deck in like the drafting format that this is designed for, you can run a Faceless One, pick one of the colors that you need, that's the color, and then you use one of the backgrounds other than this to create your color identity in Limited. Otherwise, it's just kind of a mediocre card and it's not really going to see any actual 100 card commander play. Let's move on to Cultist of the Absolute. For a black, commander creatures you own get +3/+3, have flying, death touch, ward, pay 3 life, and at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature. This is a high risk, high reward background. If your commander is already 4 to 7 power, this can turn it into a real threat to kill with commander damage in 3 turns or less. But a word of caution, that sacrifice trigger on the upkeep It is not optional. If you run out of fodder to feed into the commander or an opponent kills your creatures besides the commander, you will have to sacrifice your commander to that trigger, unless you can get rid of the background before your next upkeep. In the spirit of trying to Voltron commander kill your opponent, they also made Raised by Giants, 5 and a green. Commander creatures you own have base power and toughness 10/10 and are giants in addition to their other creature types. Your smaller commanders suddenly become huge threats when this hit the board. Give them evasion, and all of a sudden a commander kill out of nowhere might actually happen. My recommendation is to play this in the deck with the brand new Grizzly Bear commander, Wilson Refined Grizzly. Then you'll have a 10/10 instead of a 2/2 that has Vigilance, Reach, Trample, Ward 2, and it'll be ready to take off your opponent's head in a slightly less refined manner. Next one that I spy is Scion of Halaster. For 1 and black, commander creatures you own have the first time you would draw a card each turn. Instead, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one into your graveyard and the other back on top of your library, then draw a card. It's kind of an interesting way to get card selection and advantage. It essentially gives all of your draws Surveil 2, but then you're also required to put one of them in the graveyard rather than both of them back on top. Reanimator and Flashback style decks will actually really like this card. Next is one of my favorites because I have a Chatterfang deck. Cloakwood Hermit. For 2 and a green, commander creatures you own have at the beginning of your end step, if a creature card was put into your graveyard from anywhere this turn, create 2 tapped 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens. I am so putting this in the 99 of my Chatterfang deck. Any deck where you can sacrifice things at will and take advantage of this thing will like having this, but with Chatterfang, I can sack one of the squirrels, I get 2 squirrels at the end of turn off of the Cloakwood Hermit, and then I get 2 more for Chatterfang's ability, so it just kind of snowballs. Next we have Guild Artisan, if it's translated correctly. This was translated off of a foreign language site. For 1 and a red, commander creatures you own have whenever this creature attacks a player, if no other opponent has more life than that player, create 2 treasure tokens. This incentivizes you to go after the players with the least amount of life lost in a game, and I can appreciate that. It makes it so you're not picking on one person over and over again. And it can ramp you into some bigger stuff pretty fast if you make that your priority to kind of make your stronger opponents less strong. The last background that I see has been revealed so far as of this recording, Shameless Charlatan. For 1 and a blue, commander creatures you control have 2 and a blue. This creature becomes a copy of another target creature. This can really mess combat math up really quick because you can do this at instant speed. So if someone's like, oh, I can attack into you, and all of a sudden they go, oh, I'll make my guy like the 10/10 that's sitting over there, and then they lose their creature because they didn't account for that happening. On top of that, you can also turn your commander into something really nasty if it's on the board, such as, an Eldrazi Titan or a Blightsteel Colossus. I see those things floating around once in a while. The possibilities are only capped by what's on the battlefield at any given moment. So what are your thoughts on the background mechanic? Do you feel like it's too narrow or broad? Do you think it's just adding another thing to keep track of? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Sound off in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe, and have a great day.